Hi everyone, it's Katie from Paradise Falls family. In this short video, we're continuing our Hawaii 2023 vlog series by looking at our time in Oahu, Hawaii. We stayed here at Disney's Aulani resort for 7 nights as part of a longer trip to California and Hawaii, and we had an amazing time. In our previous videos, we've given a summary of the resort and talked through our first few days on the island. In this video, we're going to talk through days 3 and 4, giving an overview of how we spent our time and what we got up to on Oahu, including hiking Diamond Head, visiting Pearl Harbor, as well as the Waimea Valley. As I mentioned in our last video, we wanted to split our week about 50-50 between exploring the island and relaxing in the resort. So we decided we'd rent a car for around 3.5 days and spent the rest of the time around the resort. On days 3 and 4, we had a car for both days, so these were very much days out and exploring the island. Our rough plan for day 3 was to do the southeast corner of the island, hiking Diamond Head, followed by some beach time. We were expecting to be up early, so we'd planned to first of all head out to the east coast and maybe Haleiwa Beach to see the sunrise, or perhaps drive up to Tantalus Lookout for some views over Honolulu. However, although it was still very early in our trip, we found that we were getting over the jet lag a little quicker than we expected. We thought we'd still be waking up at around 3 to 4 am, but we managed to sleep until around 5:30, so instead we headed straight for Diamond Head, where we had a booking for 8 am. Due to its popularity, Diamond Head currently has a timed entry system with slots regularly booking up, particularly the early slots, which are the most popular as it's cooler to hike the route in the early morning. Each slot lasts around 2 hours, which gives you enough time to park, get up to the top and back down again. We thought about booking the 6 am slot, but decided it was too early, with it taking an hour to get there from Aulani, so had booked at 8 am on the State Park website 30 days in advance for around £25 or $30 for the 4 of us. Diamond Head is an old volcanic crater and it's perhaps Oahu's most recognisable landmark. You start off in the car park, which sits in the middle of the crater, before hiking up the side to the crater rim, which has amazing views over the island and Honolulu down below. The hike up was billed as a family-friendly hike, so we decided to go for it, having done some fairly relaxed hikes back home in the Lake District in England. Our journey to the site from Aulani took around 50 minutes, and we parked up easily in the bottom of the crater, and we were on the trail for just after 8. The climb to the top follows a path all the way, which at times gets a little rocky, but that kept the kids a bit more interested. There are spots every so often where you can sit down and catch your breath, and a great lookout on the way up with plenty of views down into the crater below along the way. Although it was very early in the morning, it was starting to heat up quite quickly and it was tough going, but out of nowhere clouds came over and there was some light rain, which actually made it much more comfortable, and we took advantage to get up to the top as quickly as we could whilst the weather was slightly cooler. Without this, it would have been much warmer and more uncomfortable, so we'd suggest considering the 6 am slot even though it's painfully early. Make sure to remember to bring plenty of water and snacks too, as these kept us going on the way up. The second half of the hike to the top is dominated by a series of flights of stairs as well as a tunnel. These can seem imposing, but they really weren't that bad and we got up quite easily. There are 2 ways you can get to the top, but you're encouraged to follow the one-way system to make the flow of people a little easier, as it's pretty busy at the top. The hike took us around 50 minutes and we got to the top just before 9 am. The very top is extremely crowded, so we had to be patient and wait our turn to get our pictures and take in the views down to the coast below and Honolulu. We maybe spent about 15 minutes at the top before beginning the walk down. There is actually an old bunker at the top which was used in World War II as a lookout post, and you can climb down through this and down the spiral staircase as part of the route to the bottom. The walk down was obviously much easier, even though it was getting a little warmer again now, but we reached the bottom a little before 10 am, so the 2-hour time slot was pretty much perfect. Back down at the car park there are restrooms and a little shop, so we took the last 10 minutes to rest before heading off. Although I admit this was Greg's choice rather than mine, and I'm not a big walker, I did really enjoy Diamond Head. The views from the top were amazing, and it gave us a real sense of achievement to get to the top. The kids are a bit hot and cold with hiking. Sometimes they like it and sometimes they don't, but we found that they were able to do this comfortably and seemed to really enjoy it in the end, so it was a really good hike for the whole family. Back in the car, we stopped just outside the park exit on the coast at the Diamond Head Lookout. There's a small car park here with views over the coast and a marker for Amelia Earhart commemorating her solo flight from Hawaii to North America. It was nice to take a few minutes in the peace and quiet after a busy morning and watch the surfers in the waves below. Our plan now was to head around the coast to Waimanalo Beach, about 30 minutes away. However, we wanted to make a few quick stops on the way. The first of these was in Hawaii Kai, which is a little town with a marina and a good shopping area, and a good spot to get some snacks. Our main target here was the Leonard's Truck, which is in the Coco Marina Centre near Walgreens, and we had our first taste of Malasadas, which are basically like hot donuts, and a local speciality which you just have to try. We also popped into Coconut Shave Ice and Snacks, which apparently is also a favourite of Barack Obama, and we enjoyed our first shave ice of the trip, which was delicious and helped pep us up after the hike. Back on the road, there was just one more stop before we hit the beach, and that was the Halona Blowhole, another roadside stop-off. We managed to get a spot in the car park okay and had a quick look at the massive waves crashing against the coast and shooting up the blowhole. There was also a small beach to the side with seals laying on the sand, which was really cool to see, and this beach also features in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Moving on to Waimanalo Beach, there are a couple of different places you can park and stop at this beach as it stretches along the coast. We'd read that the main car park was filled with tents, but if you carry on past McDonald's to the Polo Club, there is a right turn at Hunanano Beach Park, which takes you down to the beach, and there is a big car park that was almost empty when we arrived in the late morning. There are a number of amazing beaches along the east coast of Oahu, with Kailua and Laniakea all seeming to top the lists. However, we'd read that unless you go very early, it's almost impossible to park. Given that we weren't arriving until later, we'd opted for Waimanalo as reviews said it was much quieter but just as nice. The beach was beautiful, just like you'd imagine Hawaii to be, with gorgeous white sand, blue sea and crashing waves. There are restrooms, lifeguards and trees for shade if you want them, and everything you could want except maybe somewhere to eat. Fortunately, we'd planned ahead and brought a picnic with us that we'd made up from Target the day before, so we got settled on the beach and enjoyed our lunch taking in the amazing views. Unfortunately for us though, this is as good as it got, as we went to go into the water but found the shore was littered with hundreds of jellyfish. On Googling, we found that apparently it's a thing, that so many days after a full moon, the jellyfish tend to be washed ashore, which unfortunately clashed with our visit. So we didn't want to take a risk and get stung, and it was too hot to sit without going in the water to cool off, so we decided to move on. This was really disappointing as we'd found such a lovely place to spend the afternoon, but we thought we'd better play it safe. We thought about trying Kailua or Laniakea Beach up the coast, but decided we'd probably have the same issue there and we'd also likely not get parked. The kids were desperate to play on a beach and in the sea, so we decided to call it a day and head back to Aulani to chill on the beach there, which is on the south coast and a bit more sheltered. Arriving back at the hotel, we popped to the Ko'olina shops to go to the ABC store to pick up some wooden surfboards, or chopping boards as they're supposed to be used for the characters to sign around the resort. We'd seen people with these around the hotel and they looked a really cool souvenir for the trip. We then parked up and spent the rest of the afternoon down on the beach at the hotel, cooling off in the sea and making full use of the free boogie boards. Late afternoon, we picked up a few takeaway bits from Off the Hook and Mama's snack stop and headed back to the room to enjoy our dinner on the balcony while we showered and got ready for the evening. Every week at Aulani there's a DVC Member Event which takes place on the Haleiwa lawn in the evening, and we wanted to make the most of this. The event started around 6:30, lasting until 8ish, and we were greeted at the entrance with some free gifts including a lei and a DVC magnet. You're encouraged to bring towels to sit on the lawn, and then there's a little dance party, some Disney trivia and a very small presentation about the benefits of the Disney Vacation Club. A couple of characters also join the party, in our case Mickey, Chip and Dale, Moana and Stitch, and then you're free to meet the characters at the end of the event as they spread out around the lawn. We hopped from queue to queue, getting our board signed, and managed to meet all but Moana before we called it a night and headed back to the room for some well-earned rest. The event was loads of fun, and if you're a DVC member it's a must-do and something we'd really recommend. It was a lovely event we hadn't planned on before arriving, so it was a really nice surprise. The next day, day 4, was another busy day exploring the island to make use of the car. Again, we slept in a little longer, so didn't get quite as early start as we expected. Nevertheless, we were on the road for around 8 AM, following a quick breakfast in the room while we were getting ready. Our first stop for the day was Pearl Harbor, which is around a 30-minute drive from Aulani. There are many different aspects to Pearl Harbor to visit, starting with the main visitor centre, from where you can take the boat out to the USS Arizona Memorial across the bay, which sits above the sunken ship. Then you also have 3 museums, the Aviation Museum, the Battleship Missouri, both of which you need to take a shuttle bus to, and finally the USS Bowfin, which is a submarine you can tour and sits right next to the visitor centre. We didn't have a set plan other than to visit the visitor centre and the USS Arizona Memorial, and after that to see if we could fit anything else in. I think Greg in particular could have spent all day here, but we were conscious that the kids probably wouldn't want to spend ages here, and there were other things on the island that we wanted to see. To visit the memorial, you can book tickets for this 8 weeks in advance, and these are just $1. They do sell out though, so you need to be quick. But they do have another ticket release, I think, the day before if you've missed out. In our case, we booked for 9 AM with the plan of maybe popping into the submarine next to the visitor centre beforehand, as this opened at 7 AM. However, as we were getting over our jet lag pretty quickly, we didn't have time, so we decided to leave it this time. We arrived at around 8:40, parking easily at the visitor centre and entered, only to find that all sailings to the memorial were cancelled for the day due to high winds. Apparently this is really rare, and we were so disappointed, but it couldn't be helped. We were told our tickets would remain valid for a week, but realistically we weren't going to be able to come back, so we decided we'd have to try again if we're able to visit again one day. So with that crossed off our plans, we spent some time at the Visitors Centre, where there is a fascinating museum about the attack on Pearl Harbor, as well as memorials to those who lost their lives. We were able to watch the short video which is normally shown before the sailing, so we at least got to see that, which was really interesting. They also have a Junior Ranger programme for kids, and it's always fun to pick up a booklet to keep the kids entertained. After around an hour exploring, we decided to move on rather than take in any more of the sites or museums. We had plans in the afternoon up on the north shore of the island, so thought it would be better to get moving and return another time. The drive up to the north shore takes around 40 minutes, straight up the highway up the middle of the island. This takes you straight past the Dole Plantation that we'd visited the day before, so as we were driving past we thought we'd try our luck and check if it was any quieter than our previous visit. We did have a bit of luck in that the cafe at least was quieter, if not the attractions, so we popped in with the intention of getting a Dole Whip. However, the menu looked really good and we weren't sure of where we were going to get some lunch that day, so we decided to have an early lunch while we had the opportunity. The food was really good here, and Greg even got to try some Kahlua pork before we all enjoyed our Dole Whip for dessert, which was amazing. Another 20 minutes up the road we were passing Haleiwa, which is roughly the start of the stretch of the North Shore most visited by tourists. The beaches and scenery along here are beautiful, and we had loads of stops we wanted to try and make, but with limited time we had to settle for just a few today, with perhaps a couple more the following day. This area of the island felt a lot more like how we imagined Hawaii to be. A bit quieter and further from Honolulu, and we can see why everyone says you have to go and visit the North Shore. There's only one road which goes along the shore, and it's really popular, so it can make stopping quite tricky as it can get really busy. This is where our luck for the day turned as we were driving past Laniakea Beach, also known as Turtle Beach, which is one of the most popular spots along the shore, and we could see a load of people gathered around and obviously watching turtles in the ocean. At the same time, we spotted a parking spot in the car park across the street, so we nipped in and parked up to take a quick look ourselves. A word of warning, the car park is the opposite side of the street to the beach, which means you have to cross a fairly busy highway, which was a bit hairy, but we nipped across okay and down onto the beach. This was without a doubt my highlight of the day, as we must have seen around 5 or 6 turtles in the surf in the 15 minutes we were there, coming up onto the beach to rest before swimming off. It was amazing to see these beautiful animals in the wild and was a real thrill. Make sure to respect the animals and the rules though, and keep your distance, as some people were a little too close and were told to keep back. So after that thrill, we carried on up the coast to Waimea Valley. The valley sits opposite Waimea Bay Beach, another top spot on the coast, and is a lovely park set in the valley which leads up to Waimea Falls, where you can take a swim. We arrived at around 12:45, parked up pretty easily and bought our tickets for $25 per adult and $14 per child. The walk up the valley, through the gardens and along the river is beautiful, and it's pretty easy as it's paved the whole way. However, it is 30 minutes each way, which in the midday heat can take its toll. There's a shuttle bus which you can get, but this costs $10 per person each way, so it isn't cheap, and when we asked about it, they didn't seem to be very frequent or reliable, so we gave it a miss and just walked. Fortunately, after the walk in the heat, there is an amazing waterfall to cool off in. Entry includes a life jacket, which is mandatory, and then there are a couple of little changing rooms up there, a snack shop, and somewhere to store bags, so it's a really good little setup. The waterfall was incredibly beautiful, and it was a thrill to cool off and swim in the pool. You might also recognise this waterfall from Lost, which filmed a few scenes here across the series. After around 30 minutes playing in here, we decided to make a move. We had a reservation for horse riding later in the afternoon and wanted to make sure that we didn't miss this. Now much cooler after our swim, we wandered back through the valley to the car and got on the road to Gunstock Ranch, which was around 20 minutes further along the highway, around the tip of the island. The kids had specifically asked to do horse riding on this trip, so we'd spent some time researching different options. We'd narrowed it down to Gunstock Ranch and the Turtle Bay Resort. Turtle Bay is an amazing hotel that you might recognise from Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, and it looks incredible. Their package involved all 4 of us riding horses along the coast and the beach and sounded fantastic. However, we were a little nervous as the kids hadn't ridden horses before, so we wanted to be able to keep an eye on them, and it was also a little more expensive. Gunstock Ranch, however, seemed to offer packages a little more geared towards kids and seemed a better setup for us as first timers, as well as being a little better price-wise. We booked 2 pony rides for the kids, which came to $130 in total. Although it says it's tailored for 2 to 7-year-olds, it's still suitable for slightly older kids, so it was fine for Eva, who is 10. They also weren't ponies either, and the kids rode full-size horses, or at least they seemed that way to us novices, which was great. We arrived and our wrangler was fantastic, taking the kids through exactly what they'd be doing and telling them how to control the horse. He helped them onto the horses and then led them along the trail for around 30 minutes. We were the only ones on the ride, so it was really relaxing, and Greg and I were able to walk alongside the horses and take pictures as they rode. Although not on the coast, the scenery was beautiful, and it was a great ride which the kids absolutely loved and were buzzing when they got off. Our wrangler was so friendly and nice, and he made it a really fantastic experience that we'd recommend anyone to check out. At the end of the ride, the kids were able to groom and feed the horses and then spend some time at the little farm which had sheep and goats before headed off back along the north shore. It was around 4:15 by now and we'd eaten early, so we decided to get some food rather than make any more stops today. We carried on through to Haleiwa, which is the main town on the north shore, making sure to get a picture of the famous sign on the way in. Haleiwa has a couple of good beaches itself, although we didn't have time to stop at them today, and usually has loads of food trucks and shops to look around. We were a little late in the day, so some of the trucks had closed for the day, but we still had plenty to choose from. We parked up at the North Shore Marketplace, spent some time browsing a few shops before picking up some food from one of the food trucks. This was a really cool way to have our evening meal and our first proper experience of Hawaiian food trucks, and it was loads of fun. Greg also got to try poke for the first time, which was another experience ticked off his list for this trip. By the time we'd finished, it was around 6 p.m, and we'd been out since 8 o'clock that morning, so we were pretty tired and decided to head back south to the hotel, which is around 40 minutes away. It had been another really fun day exploring around Oahu, and although there was lots we didn't get to, we still had one more day with the car to explore some more, so we made sure to get back and get an early night ready for another busy day. I'll cut the vlog off here and cover this next day and the rest of our week on Oahu in separate videos. In next week's video, I'll talk through our final day with our rental car, including visits to Kailua Ranch and the Polynesian Cultural Centre, as well as some more resort time around Aulani. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss those, and thank you all again so much for watching.